Welcome to the Civic Circus podcast. I am Spencer Duncan.
And I'm Angel Romero.
Let's start the show. All right, well, Angel, thank you for being here. This is the first one. If it goes really well, I'll give you all the credit. If it goes really terrible, it's all right to say, oh, Spencer, I don't know why you started this thing.
That's totally fair.
I told people I started this because I do think in local government there's a lack of communication in general with just local elected officials. So I think every avenue we can use. But I also didn't want this to be something where I just talk at people. I mean, because you can. And I looked around a lot of political podcasts, and it's a lot of them just 20 minutes, 30 minutes of this is what I want you to hear. And
exactly.
Like, cool. That was not productive at all. That was just propaganda for 20 minutes, right? And so that's the goal of this: is bring someone in here every week, and we'll get to know you a little bit here as we get through it. But that way, I tell everybody, I want you to participate in the conversation. If you agree with me, great. If you disagree with me, you can be like, Spencer, I don't know about that, man. And that's okay, because I think these are conversations, not whatever Spencer said, because it's his show or whatever, right? So thank you for being here. I just wanted the world to know why I'm doing this, and we'll see how it goes.
Glad to do. I love that you're doing this. This is way cool. I think it's the kind of thing that we need.
Yeah. So, all right. So we're going to start off every show with 3 issues that I know people are talking about or asking me about.
Okay.
My goal is to just run them down, and you can have some input, see what your thought process is on some of these.
Sure.
First one is, and everybody hates budgets, but you got to talk about budgets. We started last week our budget talk because heading into next year, we've got a $17 to $18 million budget deficit.
How is that all?
Yeah, I know. Exactly. I'm like, great. That's ominous. Good news is our staff has kind of come up with a way to cut that in more than half, but we're going to have to make some cuts.
Yeah.
The alternatives are raise taxes.
Yeah.
I know there was an idea floated to a new sales tax, which most of the council was like, no, that's not happening. We're not doing a new sales tax.
Yeah.
But we started a line-by-line review, which does not happen every year because it is tedious and long, and you're like, but you got to do it to find where there are real cuts that can be made or efficiencies. And so I think what we're trying to let people know is, there's a deficit. Yeah. And if you've got ideas, let us know because I want the public to have input into that. Yeah. But also, we are going to have to make some tough decisions. Yeah. But I think we can make them. We also want our staffs to know. That doesn't mean we're going to have to lay off 100 people.
Right, yeah.
Right? Or because we have 1,200 employees, and maybe there's some cuts, but we won't want our staff to think that's the first line of, just get rid of people, because people will make this thing run. Yeah. So that's where we're at. So I'm trying to let people know, we got this flashing red light of trouble. Our budget process, though, will go through September. So we're required by state law to submit a budget by October 1st. So we got time. Yeah. Long time.
Yeah, well, it's funny. We're going through at our agency. We're doing our budget right now too, and it's one of those things, especially in nonprofit and government. These are tough times for everyone, and I think across the board in lots of places, there's lots of hard conversations happening right now, because we're all kind of grappling with being in that tough spot.
I got notes here. See.
Oh yeah,
I'm not cheating or anything. I don't have it. You can tell everybody I don't have anything written down like a speech. But, so this is a cool breakdown, and I should put this out on social media just to let people know where our budget is. And so if you take $1, right? So if of every dollar we take from you as taxes, 45 cents of it goes to police and code compliance, 31 cents of it goes to fire. 14% of it goes to our general operations, so administrative or water department, like those kind of things. 7% of it goes to public works, which that's not very much considering all the things we have, and then 7% of it goes, or 7 cents of it goes to planning. Sure. So when people tell us you got to make cuts, we can do it. But I remind them that, what is that math? 45, 55, 65, 76%
it's public safety.
Is public safety.
Yeah.
So if they want cuts, sometimes that's where they're going to have to come from, because those others are already pretty slim. But I'll have to put this out there. I don't think
a lot of people know that.
Yeah.
Or think about that. Yeah.
No, and that's why I wanted this graphic, because I think if you break it down by $1, when I take your dollar from you, this is where it's going, like by the penny. And so
absolutely.
So that's where it's. So that's the first thing. I thought we'd give people an update on the horror show of the budget, and but we're doing the work. I will say, this is my 6th year on the council, and this is the hardest we've worked on the budget in a long time.
Well, I'll say, yeah, while it is excruciating to go line by line, for those of you who watch the city council or attend meetings, this is a good chance to learn because you're gonna see it all, so they'll be able to get into all the nitty gritty.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. And it can glaze over sometimes. It's cool. All right. The second thing that I've been getting lots of questions about, and we had a presentation last night, was homelessness. Especially in the summer, now that there's more people out, you're gonna see folks more than maybe in the winter when they hunker down and hide a little more. We have over 600 homeless. It's the most we've ever had in this city. It's definitely a crisis level problem. We obviously haven't solved homelessness. Nobody has.
Nobody, yeah.
I mean, there's not a state, a city that's totally solved it. You either got to help people, or you can do what the governor of California wants to do and just say it's a criminal act to basically camp and be homeless. Yeah. Which I try to tell people, the cost of putting people in jail is 3 times the cost of just trying to house them.
Absolutely.
So there's a piece to that, and you know that, I'm sure. We'll talk about what you do here a little bit, working in the nonprofit sector, helping people. But I will say, Topeka has one of the toughest camping ordinances in the state, for better or worse, and it's had some worse moments, but it's also done some good. Can't be within 500 feet of a sidewalk or a trail. Yeah. And we have a whole trail across the city. So that radius is huge. Yeah. But the thing I want to talk about that I think we're going to try to do is something that Lawrence does. And Lawrence implemented what they call Douglas County First. And what Douglas County First means is, if you are homeless in Lawrence and from Douglas County, they will do everything they can to help you. If you have zero connection to Douglas County, you just kind of wandered in or were sent there, they'll still help you immediately. Sure. Triage services. But then they're going to connect you with services from where you came and basically send you back. Sure. And that's kind of a horrible way to look at it. Sure. Like, people are not commodities, right? But the point is, it's helped them focus what resources they have on people who have connections to the community versus just come here. And I will tell you, in Kansas and Topeka, that's a problem. In Topeka and Lawrence and Wichita, we have people from other parts of Kansas coming to our cities because they say, they got resources. Right. Yeah. Go there. And we do, but not if we have too many people. Right. I can't help you. So I don't know. I don't know if that's a good idea or not. I only got thoughts on that, but we should do a Shawnee County first to kind of implement that. Rescue Mission kind of does that now. Yeah. They give priority to Shawnee County residents, but I think it's something the city needs to do.
Well, I think it's, and you know this too, is that I think any kind of solution that addresses homelessness, it's going to be an all of the above type thing, because there's nonprofits can't do it all, city government can't do it all. It's going to take a variety of different measures, I think, to put that together. The policy piece is important, and so I think it's good that our city council is taking a look at, because that's an important piece of that. One of many things that has to happen. It is tough. No one has solved it, and no one, and it's interesting because I don't think the goal is ever to have zero homelessness. That's why I talk about functional zero. You want more people leaving than coming in, but it's a challenge that's going to be with us for a while.
And we were there 5 years ago. The rescue mission would tell you, we may have 100, 150, but we can manage that. We can help them. We can get them in programs. 600. We don't have it. Yeah. They don't have it. We don't have it as a city. Yeah. It's killer. All right. Well, the last thing, I'll save the most controversial for last. You ready? This one this week kind of hit. As everybody saw, our city manager hired a new assistant city manager, Avery Moore, out of Tacoma, Washington, who was the police chief there. He hired him in, and so people have asked, what are you doing? First of all, do we really need another assistant city manager? Poor Avery, he had some issues back in Tacoma. I think if you go Google it, I'm not going to talk about it here, not because I don't want, but I don't want to go down that rabbit hole. As anything from what I've learned, there's truth and untruth in everything, right? Right. Yeah. But I think the big question people have had is, why is the city manager hiring this person, and what's your perspective as a city council person? Because he's going to make some money. I mean, it's a decent paycheck. Yeah. I think it's $200,000. I tell people, I'll tell you everything. It's not going to hide what he's making. So, his primary role is to help oversee all of our public safety. So, not people have focused on police and fire, but it also includes code enforcement. It includes a job we probably don't need to fill now, which is we don't have an emergency management director. We haven't for several years. Sure. So he can serve that role too, which is critical. So it's not just, he's going to be doing a lot of roles. Yeah. City manager came to us last year when we hired him and said, I have this structure I want for my executive level. We had no deputy city manager for the last 3 years. And I can tell you for 20 years prior to that, we did. And we could tell. One person at the top cannot manage 16 departments and 1,200 people by themselves. Yeah. They need an assistant. Yeah. So this is one of those assistants. So I tell people, We approved that, so we knew he was going to make this hire, at least to that position. I think what I've learned through this process, though, is our city charter basically which was passed by the voters. No shame on them. It's just a fact, right? So, which we have to follow, gives our city manager a lot of authority. In fact, all the authority to hire and fire. Yeah. I, as a city councilman, can only hire and fire 2 people. Right. The city manager and our city attorney. Yeah. That's it. Right? Now, I can look at my city manager and say, oh, why does so-and-so still work here? Right. And if you want to keep him around, that's cool. But just so you know, that's going to impact how I view your job. Right. I mean, that's how you have those conversations. But I do think in viewing this as it comes in, we probably need to add a layer to our charter that gives the city council some input in the higher level, executive level, or department head positions. And I think there's 2 ways to look at it. Either we should have, when that person's hired, the city manager can make a recommendation, and maybe the council should have to at least vote on that person. That would give us buy-in, first of all. Sure. Hey, we're now part of this decision too. Sure. And also, it would have a public conversation about that person maybe. Now, there's a lot of people though who may not come work for us if we do it that way. Right? Yeah. So that's one drawback that I've heard. Yeah. The other way to look at it is a city manager can, I won't say do whatever they want, but when we approve a budget, they just have to stay within the budget. Sure. So if he, and I'm going to use the worst extreme example that this city manager would never do. Let me be very clear about that. Robert would never do this. But if he wanted to today, he could take 20 of those vacancies we have, of our 40 vacancies in the police department, and say, I'm closing them out of the police department. I'm going to bring them to my office, and I'm going to fill more executive levels. Right. Yeah. Because I'm still within the $138 million budget you approved. Right. Yeah. Right. He wouldn't do that. But at the very least, if city manager is going to do that kind of restructuring, then maybe we should at least have to take a vote on that. Sure. That would at least then say, great, if you're going to have this many people making this much money, we had to approve that first. Yeah. So those are the 2 models I'm looking at. We have a citizen review committee that's currently meeting to talk about our changes to our charter. They meet every 10 years. And they're going to give us a presentation this summer. And so I'm thinking of offering one of those ideas up as a middle ground to get the council more involved, and so the public knows that we do have some oversight.
Sure. And it's, I think about what we use, the model that we use at Washburn. So I serve on their board of regents. And so we hire the president, and then they get to fill their executive level roles. But we do participate in the interviews with that person and provide input at least to the president. And so there's at least an input process. Yeah, at the very least, maybe having that so that there is a chance for you all as representatives of the city too to be able to at least have some input.
Well, that's what we're elected to do. Yeah. We're supposed to be that board of directors if you want to use the business model, or just the governing body who doesn't just say, well, we've hired this one guy, now what else is our role? Right. Yeah. And there's a lot of other things we obviously do. At least I'll defend that. Right? but I think there's value in that, in the public wanting some confidence in. We elected you to help play a part in that process, not just cede every decision to the people we hire. And that's fair. That's fair. And then if they don't like what I do, they can vote me out. That's cool. I mean, really, that's democracy, man. Yeah. Well, those are the big 3. Tried to keep it light, right? Right? So now let's get to the really fun stuff, right? So I bring in a guest, right? I want you to tell people, like, what's your connection to Topeka, what you do, and just talk about yourself a little bit. Some people are better at that than others. I hate talking about myself.
I do too. You
don't have to give us like all your secrets, or if you want to, though. All right.
All my deep dark secrets. Yeah. No, so I'm a transplanted Topekan, and so I always tell folks Topeka is my chosen town. So I'm a military brat. So my dad was in the Army, and so we lived here, there, and everywhere growing up, and we ended up in Fort Riley when all was said and done. And came time for me to choose where to go to college, and I did some looking. I said, well, Washburn sounds like a pretty good place, and came here for undergrad, and then kind of haven't looked back ever since. I always tell people it's the best decision I ever made coming to Washburn for undergrad. And then decided to stick around and do a couple more years of school at Washburn Law. And then after that, decided I should probably get a job and become a real adult and everything. And by the time I was hooked, I drank the Kool-Aid I was in, and decided I wanted to stick around in Topeka. And so I've been here, since 2006. It'll be 20 years next year, which is for a kid that moved around all the time growing up. It's weird to be in one spot for that long, but I like it though. It's growing on me.
Well, you would have moved if you didn't like it too much.
Exactly. Well, and see, now I'm at that place where I'm like, I got too much stuff. Like, I'm not going anywhere.
Man.
Right? But I think it was neat when I got here. Getting here in 2006, that was right about the time like when Heartland Visioning was starting, and a lot of those things that have kind of born what we are seeing now in Topeka's growth started happening. So it was a really exciting time to come to town, and that's what really kind of hooked me too. Was the city really seriously wanted input from younger generations about what they wanted their city to look like, and I thought that was cool that they cared what Washburn students thought and gave us chances to be involved with those things. And that's those things, one thing begets another, and so you get involved in one thing, and then people get to know you, and it kind of snowballs from there. But that was, I remember going to a Heartland Visioning meeting one time, and you're in this room of like 100 people, and I was like a sophomore in college, and looking back on it, I'm like, what in the world was I doing? Like, I have an idea, but people listened. It was so cool. And I just thought that's way cool. And it's neat to see now those things coming to fruition that were talked about back then, like Nodo and like downtown redevelopment and all those things. And so now it's fun to look at the next chapter of things.
So now you're with United Way.
I am.
What do you do there?
Yeah, so I've been with them. It'll be 10 years in August, which is wild, at United Way of Kaw Valley. So I am their Vice President of Resource Development, which is a fancy way of saying fundraising.
Right.
So I oversee all of our fundraising for the 4 counties that we serve. So we serve Shawnee, Jackson, Jefferson, and Douglas counties. Yeah.
So I know as an elected official, one of the things why we do this podcast, right, is to engage with people, to get them engaged in the process. Because I always say it's a 50-50 responsibility, right? I believe I have a responsibility as an elected official to make the effort to connect with people and give them the opportunity to talk to me and work with me and be part of the conversation. Yeah. But the other 50%, that's on them too.
Yeah.
Right? It's the old, I can bring them the horse to water, but I can't make them drink. And so I always tell people, you have some responsibility to engage also. But again, if you're not making the effort. And so I'm curious, in your role and being with United Way for 2 years, how have you been able to connect with people around Topeka and the area you serve to understand the mission of United Way and get them engaged in what you're doing?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think a lot of times, people are busy and people have a lot going on, and so sometimes I try to give people grace and know that it's not because people don't want to engage sometimes, but people got a lot going on, and so you have to kind of meet people where they're at. And find out what people care about already, what they're involved in already, and how do you meet people in those spaces and talk to them about the work you're doing in a way that's relevant to them. Why should I care about what United Way does? And sometimes it's what even is United Way?
Right.
For instance, that's the thing. A lot of times is I think I saw a T-shirt one time.
Right.
But
You
I'm
do
not
some
really
stuff,
sure.
but I don't know. A day of caring, what is that?
Right, like I think one of you shows up and asks for money every fall. That's usually what
But we don't know where the money goes.
Right.
You're like, well, you can look it up. It's on the internet.
Right, exactly. And so, we get to use all different tools, social media, in person. I'm still a big face-to-face person.
Yeah,
like nothing
me too.
replaces that kind of conversation. And a lot of listening. I think the thing I've learned the most in the last 10 years is the power of listening to people, and listening genuinely and reflecting back what you heard, so that people know that you really are listening to them. Because a lot of times people also just want to be heard.
Right.
And people have, when people have questions about what we do, that's not a bad thing, because people ask questions to understand. Yeah. And so I think there's nothing inherently bad about that. And so being open, I love that the Ted Lasso, stay curious, always be curious. That's my favorite, because it's so true. The show taught us so much, but that's one of them is, asking questions, genuinely listening to people. I think that's how you build those relationships and how you get things done.
So shameless plug. A while back, I started a Substack. For old people, that's a blog. It's just on Substack, right? And when I started, I wrote that the reason I'm starting this is for the people who do want deeper dives to get to know me and my perspectives and personality. If you want to read it, great. If you don't, that's fine too. Yeah. But it's out there. But it's funny you say it, because when I wrote about why I'm starting this podcast, I said, I've always enjoyed talking with people, not at people.
Yeah.
And I used to be a journalist. That was my first career. And I think the reason I love that was because it was getting to know people, hearing their story, and then telling their story. I mean, that was my job, reporting about their situation or life. And so I said, the problem is there's too many people nowadays, especially elected officials, who they're just waiting to talk.
Yeah.
They're looking at you, and they might be hearing you, but they're not listening. They're just waiting for the opening to be like, okay, when's my chance to tell you what I really want you to hear so I can keep moving? Yeah. And I think that's to your point of it's really got to be more about listening and actually internalizing it and thinking it through, and then saying what you need to say, whether it's agreement or disagreement. But yeah, too many people these days are just waiting to talk.
Absolutely. And how do you empower people? Like, I think especially on the nonprofit end, I think that's been the big change recently, is going from that model of, when they're looking at the people we serve, and instead of going in and saying, you need to do X, Y, and Z, we know the best, and this is what we think you need to do, but, asking people questions, and then asking them, what do they need, and how can we partner and come alongside them? I think that's changed. I'll use Highcrest as an example, the work that Scent and organizations is doing out there, that the Rescue Mission started a while ago, was they kind of flipped the script on what had always happened in that neighborhood. Was people had always gone in and said, you need to do da-da-da-da-da, and they started asking questions and partnering with people. And I think that has made a world of difference in that area. Yeah, because
you're right. It is, people do, sometimes, even if they don't want to participate, they wanted to make sure they were heard.
Exactly.
And by the way, sometimes people have good ideas.
Exactly.
I mean, I tell people right now, there are things I have brought to city council that did not come from me. And I tell it when I introduce it, like, I am introducing this because I was at my open office hours and somebody brought it to me and it was a freaking good idea. Yeah. And why would I just be like, thanks for the idea, and then not do it?
Right, yeah.
And there are literally some of those ideas that are now laws in Topeka, Kansas, or ordinances or policies. Yeah. Because there's only 10 of us on the council, right? There's 9 elected officials, there's the mayor, and then the 9 of us. We're not all geniuses. We don't have all the answers. Like, this is a community of 125,000 people. Yeah. There's a lot of good ideas out there, and to not listen to those and move them forward is just asinine. I've never understood like this frustrated. No, if it doesn't come from me,
right? Yeah,
I don't care where it comes from, right?
There's people have been around longer, and the other people that, especially I think about neighborhoods. People that live in neighborhoods know their neighborhood, and they know what needs to happen. And so, letting people share that. I think that's where that magic happens.
Yeah, they're like, instead of building that $1 million arch that'll look nice, how about you just redo our playground?
Right.
Oh, what? Okay. But I want to ribbon cut an art. No, man, you can come ribbon cut the playground.
Right.
Oh, okay. Right. So, since you're a transplant, although you've been here 20 years now, when you talk to people about Topeka, is there something specific you like to just tell about Topeka, or one little thing that you're like, oh, people don't realize this, or maybe they should know this?
Yeah. I think I like to tell people that Topeka really does have something for everyone. That's what I love, is that we're a lot of things. We're a capital city, and so for folks who are all about politics and government, we've got that, of course. If you are someone that is looking for an art scene, we've got a great arts and culture scene, and music and theater. And if you're someone who has a young family, we've got great supports for young families in this community. That we really do fill a lot of different niches, which sometimes that's tough, because there's some cities that are known for one thing, and that's their thing. And I like that we have kind of a potpourri of things in our community, and so anyone can kind of find their place in town, which I really love.
Wow. All right. Well, before we move on to you asking me a few things, hopefully you came with some questions. We'll get to that. It's fine. Like, you can shameless plug anything you want. If you have something great, if not, it's cool. How to connect with the United Way, whatever you want to tell people to know today. Go for it.
Well, this is great timing, because we are about 21 some days away from our Day of Giving. This is our 6th annual Day of Giving for United Way, and so it is similar to a lot of university Days of Giving that happen. It is our 24-hour period where folks can go online and give to United Way. So that's coming up on Wednesday, June 4th. That folks can go to.
That's coming up.
It is, yeah. So people can go to uwkvdayofgiving.org on that day and make a gift. And they can even have their gift matched that day, too, which is pretty cool.
Oh, do you get matches?
Yeah. So we've got about $5,000 worth of matching that's up for grabs that day. And all kinds. The website's live now, so people can check out everything we've got. There's about 9 different ways people can give on that day.
Matching does help, because those are the people, even if it's a small, because I know, like, and you say this and you mean it, like, hey, $20 matters, because if a lot of people give 10 or $20, it adds up. But then that 10 becomes 20. Or and sometimes people say, oh, I can give 20 instead of 10 because I know it's going to be 40.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
So
totally.
It does matter. So that's
great. That's one of my favorite days. It's fun to see. It's fun to see how much you can raise on one day and how many lives you can impact on one day.
All right, so I tell everybody come on here with a couple of questions. They can be serious, they can be not serious, but you can tell everybody I don't know what they are. I don't want to know what they are. You can ask me stuff, and I'll be like, cut the feed, cut the feed. Right. No, we're not answering that. Edit that out, man. Edit that out. Or they can be fine. It's all good.
That's awesome.
I want the people to know. I don't always need to know the question. You know, sometimes when I go on TV, like when I'm on WIBW or KSNT for a couple minutes in the mornings or the Red Couch Show, they won't tell me the questions ahead of time, but they might say, well, we might ask you about this issue or that. And I'm like, why would you tell me that? Right. You're on live TV. You want to ask me something. What makes for good live TV is you ask me something, you'll be like, can I run away? Right, I don't want to answer that question. So I'm like, you do this at your own peril. You're trying to get ratings, people.
Well, I'll say, we talked about public safety earlier. And so, we have, of course, our new assistant city manager. We have a new police chief too that started relatively not too long ago. So when we think, and there's lots of conversations about public safety, what does it look like, you think, as we move forward when we look at how to address both the crime element of public safety, but also those other things you talked about? What does that look like for the future of our community to really be proactive and address those kinds of needs?
So, when we hired Chief Vallejo, one of the things was why him, right? Mm-hmm. We had an internal candidate who we really liked also. He was not from here, but he really preached the importance of getting back to community policing, of actually having people walking neighborhoods, not just driving through neighborhoods, of making sure we're at the community meetings of the NIAs and the NAs, making sure those connections are made. Because I agree with him and believe with him that is something that we've lost. And part of it's been a resource issue. It's not because the past couple chiefs weren't committed to some form of it, but it has been the way they've reshaped things on top of a resource issue. And he has really made a commitment. And that's a couple of levels. That's getting people back in the neighborhoods, like I said, out of their cars, talking with kids, getting them at a young age to understand that, yes, there may be times you're at odds with police officers, but we are community partners. We're not the enemy. You're not the enemy. We're one group. But the other piece of that is we have community groups who are doing violence prevention, whether it's the Y doing all the great work they do with domestic violence situations, whether there's some new groups like it's called Civic is one or Save, and programs that do have violence prevention programs. They just need a few more resources. And it's cheaper for us as a community in a city to invest in what they're doing and provide supplemental support than to be like, we should start that program in the city. Right? That's silly. Yeah. And so the chief has also talked about the importance of making those connections, complementing their resources to, again, let them do their work with our efforts. And I think that's the way we reduce some of this violence, because it really is being then back in the community policing and neighborhoods. And so I'm hopeful that's a solution, because he's committed to that. We as a council, we're very receptive to that. And I think as we look at the budget process, you're going to see those adjustments made to focus on that community policing part. And I think that's the best way we do it, as opposed to just the old, like, well, we'll just have cops everywhere and hopes it solves the problem. Because they can't prevent everything, right? And the truth is, most officers are there after a problem occurs, not before. But if neighborhoods and communities know they're actively there and they can lean on them for assistance before things happen, it makes a difference. And that's just a gap we need to keep filling.
Yeah, well, you're right. There are so many of those community organizations that are doing some really good work now. And so, it'll be exciting to see what.
And I believe that with all the things. Same with homelessness. Like, we have groups. Again, I don't need to recreate homeless programs. I got the groups out there. We need to go to them and say, what do you need? We will we will help you, because you're doing the work. Like, just because duplication of services is expensive, it's not efficient, and it's just going to create more problems.
Absolutely. Okay, so we still own a hotel.
Yep. Cut the feed.
For those of you playing the drinking game at home, this is your chance to take a drink, because I mentioned Hotel Topeka. So what's up? Where are we with that? What's going on?
Totally fair question. That is like the most still thing people like. No matter what, sometimes you go. I don't know why I go on social media. You read things and it's like, well, they could do a good job, except if they didn't own the hotel.
Right.
And you know what? Those are fair concerns. I have told people from day one, I completely understand your concerns with this. And I'm not going to rehash why we thought it was a good idea at the time. I have told folks, I wish I had a time machine in this sense. I'm not perfect, and I wish every vote I'd taken was the right one every time. But we're fallible, right? And I'm like every human being. I don't know if it was the right call, and I don't know if my vote would have been different. I own my vote. I voted yes. I will say we had a city manager at the time who doesn't work for us anymore. You can go read that if you Google it. And we got some information at the time that turned out not to be accurate after the fact. We also, and I think people kind of know this, we thought the county was going to participate more in it, which would have made a difference. And then at the last minute, they kind of said, we changed our mind, but we were already committed.
Yeah.
Okay, so there were some other factors that had gone on that, man, in hindsight, wow, if I'd known that, maybe I make a different decision. Yeah. But here's what I've been committed to from day one. I have always pledged I am not spending taxpayer dollars to renovate the hotel. And we have not. Yes, we have put money in it, but the money we have put in it has been because the elevator broke, or there was a tear in the carpet that people kept tripping over, which was a safety hazard, or the ADA ramp was broken. Things you have to do because you own the property. Yeah. The other dollars we've spent have been to pay the people who work there. Right. Yeah. So like a couple weeks ago, we approved $160,000, and the media was like, another 100. Yeah, that was to pay people for the next 3 months. Yeah. Like I got to pay employees. They deserve to get paid, right? So that's the only money we've spent into it. And yeah, it's over $11 million. It's, I choke saying it. I get it. Like, I get it. The other thing is I've always been committed to is selling it to someone who's going to keep it and operate it. Because I know this doesn't look like it there all the time, but we have dozen-plus events every year that bring millions of dollars of economic development to Topeka and fill the other hotels. But every one of those contracts says if you don't have an attached hotel, we'll go to Wichita or Salina or Manhattan where they do have an attached hotel because it's a requirement of what we're doing. Sure, yeah. Right? The people who were going to buy this originally were not people who were going to commit to it long term. So we viewed this as an economic development. Again, it was a wrong call. I totally will fall on that sword and admit, but I've always been committed to selling it. Yeah. I can tell you we have 3 legitimate people we are talking to now. It could be a Hilton, a Hyatt, or a Marriott. And I am very confident before this year is out, we will not own that hotel, and it will be in the hands of someone who will put millions of dollars in to renovate it. I also believe the plan we're going to come up with may include something like us getting the CID, which is the extra little tax you put on, to pay us all back our money. Oh, sure. So every plan we've talked to with these folks involves the taxpayers getting their money back. So again, I can't time machine it and say, you're right, you guys might have been right. Maybe different choices. What I can say is we're committed to selling it, we're committed to not paying your money to renovate it, and we're committed to getting our money back. Sure. And right now, that is the path we are on. Sure. And if a year from now that's not the path, I expect everyone to look at me and say, what the hell, Duncan? Because that's fair. Yeah. And trust me, I don't want to own it any longer. we have told the city managers we do that budget with a $17 million budget deficit. Don't include the hotel in it because I'm not going to own it when 26 comes around. So don't include it. It's going to be off our plate. So that's the path we're on. Sure. And check back with me, man. I encourage everybody. So no, I'll answer that question every time, despite that we joke about it, because again, when we make decisions, own those decisions and explain them to people. Yeah. And we can agree or disagree, but I think it's important people know exactly where my head was at and what the plan is. Yeah, for sure. Well, you mentioned something that actually made me think of another question. You talked about the county a little bit, and that's, it's been a conversation for a long time about how city and county cooperate on things and what that relationship looks like. In the future, what does that look like to you? How do you think the city and county should partner more? What should that relationship look like? Yeah, I think there's a couple areas I think our planning departments, I don't think we're ever going to consolidate city and county. There may be some good reasons, but people in the county don't really want to be part of the city because of taxes. And the truth is, it sounds weird, but we hire our police chief. In the county, they elect their police chief. And for a lot of citizens, that's a huge difference, and they want to do one or the other. Sure. It sounds like but that's a catalyst, right? So I think we've partnered on Parks and Rec. I think we could partner on our planning commissions. We have a decent relationship with them. I think things like, me saying, they were going to help us with the hotel. Sounds like I'm bitter. I'm not. I'm a little frustrated, right? And I tell people, because they still own Manor Conference Center, and they're going to continue to own Manor. And I do joke with people, I'm like, they've owned that for 30 years. You don't complain that they own Manor. Why do you complain I own the hotel? Right? But I really am not trying to throw them under the bus. I think individually we have great working relationships with them. I think we are trying to build bridges where we can make more collective decisions. I mean, for instance, we're going to have a meeting about the Riverfront Authority in June. That's a group meeting. I think part of that is to learn about that project together. Sure. I also think it's another step in just saying, we can get together every once in a while and have joint meetings and communicate with one another. Yeah. Right? I would like to see them, and they've heard this say, get a little more engaged in the homelessness issue, because we are in the county. Even though it's not just their job to oversee county lands, we are in their county. Yeah. But I know there's areas too when it comes to how we annex things that they're like, hey, slow down, man.
Right.
And that's legitimate too. So I think we have a fairly good working relationship, but it's not perfect, and we have got to bridge that gap because I will tell you right now. So my day job is I'm government affairs director for the League of Kansas Municipalities. So I work with, which is basically the trade association for all the cities of Kansas. So I'm out there all the time. We're talking to these other cities. And I can tell you right now, the most prosperous areas in our state where they're seeing growth is where they have collaboration. Yeah. Where the city, the county, and sometimes even the state are working together in that area to get things done. They are the areas that are doing the best. And they aren't just the big cities like out east. I'm talking Gardens, the area around Garden City. Oh, yeah. They have a great relationship, right? Yeah. So it's little pockets of Kansas where they've come together, and I look at that and they say, we've got to do that in Shawnee County because look at what a difference it makes.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, some of those shared priorities. That's why I think of like things like homelessness and some of those issues that affect both of us equally. Where I think there could be some good synergies and that sort of thing there.
Yeah. So that's where we're going to be pushing them a little, and them us. We tell them it's fine. What are you mad at us about?
Right.
Maybe we're frenemies. I don't know. I think we're friendlier than that. So that's
I was gonna say. I think there are other places that have it far worse.
Right? Yeah. Oh, trust me. Oh, yeah. At the league, I get calls like, "How do you impeach someone?" Oh, well, I don't know. Yeah, but at least
small towns, man. Small town drama's the best.
I know, like, it's crazy out there.
Some crazy stuff out there.
All right. Well, thanks for those questions. I do appreciate it. Last couple things here I'm going to get into. I think every time I get emails all the time, constantly. Some of them are awesome. Some of them are just, hey, there's a shopping cart in my yard. Who's going to get it? Because I'm 90 years old. Like, that's a fair question.
Right.
So you know what? I go out and get the shopping cart. It's cool. That's what people talk a lot about the meetings, the big picture things, decisions we make, which are critical. But, man, I'll tell you, a lot of our time is spent on the little small stuff. Hey, my little piece of curb is crumbling. Hey, I am 90 years old, and really, I cannot literally get this shopping cart out of my yard. Can you help me? Right? Stuff like that I'm happy to do, but that's really what fills up a lot of. But I thought it'd be interesting every week to try to answer a couple emails and give you an idea of what my inbox looks like. So the first email I've got today is pretty simple. Someone said, I think your C-Click Fix comments are down. This was closed on Friday before the tire was inflated, still no tag, and does not move. How can the city close a case when the issue has not been resolved? This is an issue where these people keep putting a car without a tag busted in the same spot, and we keep getting them to move it. But he's right. So C-Click Fix, first of all, is great, and it does work. It's an app. If you haven't used it or don't use it, I will tell you that the majority of time, people who use it, whether it's for a pothole, whether it's for trash, whether it's for someone hasn't mowed their yard, abandoned properties, it is key. And every time someone uses C-Click Fix, if you're in my district, council members get it if they request it. So everyone in District 8, anytime there's a C-Click Fix, it comes into my inbox. Okay. And I will follow up on those. I'll go out and be like, hey, is this a real problem? Why have we not addressed it? And I'll send an email, hey, come get this car. What are we doing about this lawn? Like, I feel that is part of my responsibility to follow up on what citizens are asking. But this is a common concern where sometimes if you use C-Click Fix, it's got comments, and our staff will go in and type like, we're sending an officer out or code compliance out, and then they'll do an update. We've issued a ticket. You can follow it on this area, or they'll say, we've closed the case. Most of the time when they close the case, the person looks out their window and says, the grass is mowed. Oh, they've condemned the house. Oh, they fixed the broken water main. Oh, yeah, they did come fill in the pothole. But every once in a while, this happens. We say it's a case closed, and the person looks out their window and says, that car is still there. Yeah. And what happens in this case and in some of these cases is we can't just instantly go tow a car. We have to knock on their door and give them a notice. Hey, you've got 24 or 48 hours to remove that car, and if you don't, then we may tow it, or we're going to come have a conversation. Yeah. And then sometimes, let me be clear, our staff who does this is great. But sometimes they hit the button that says it's closed because they had the conversation. Oh. And I've tried to tell staff, I don't think it's closed until the car is moved. And so people read that and they see the car, and staff will tell me, well, we went and talked to them. I'm like, yeah, but it's now been 3 days and the car is still there. Yeah. So in this case, that's what happened. And I tell people, if that keeps happening on a specific case, like do what this guy did, email me. Yeah. Because then or email whoever your council person is. But if you email me, and then I can call staff and be like, I get why we closed it, but seriously, like,
Yeah.
why is the problem not fixed? Or at least tell me what I don't know in more detail so I can tell these people what's happening.
Yeah.
So don't stop using See-Click-Fix. It's truly awesome.
Yeah.
But I get the frustration this guy's having. So I like to, I always want to address that problem.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, the second email, this one's pretty simple. This is a real email. Dear Mr. Duncan, are you a moron? A curious citizen.
Curious citizen.
I looked at this email, right? And I was like, there was no context. Like, was it a specific issue? Was it a general issue? They didn't say, like, you did this, are you a moron?
Just straight up, are you
So
a
then
moron?
I thought, well, maybe they ask everybody that. Like, like they just walk up and they went, are you a moron? Because if so, I don't want to know you. And if not, we can be friends, right? I did reply back to them with, I don't believe I am. And if you are not either, I will like to continue the conversation. They did not reply. I have not replied. So I didn't really know what answer they were looking for outside of, I don't think I'm a moron. I guess that's up to other people to decide. Like, you could disagree with me, but...
This is such a great reminder. You truly can email your elected officials with anything that is on your mind.
Right. And they do. I will say, this was kind of funny, and we get a lot of these. They're just like, who have real concerns and then end it with a frustrating, and I don't...
Right.
I will say this. I don't take it... I always tell people, it's not personal until it's personal. Like, if you're truly upset about something and there's a legit problem and you're just mad, I will have that conversation. Yeah. If it's just like, why would you guys do this? Now, if you start calling me, you're a moron, you're an idiot, I'm like, well, now it's a little personal, and I get you're mad, but let's deal with the issue. And I think sometimes elected officials don't make those distinctions. They take it all personal. I'm like, no, they're mad about the issue, but you're the government. You're the official who's sitting in that seat. They got to yell at somebody, right? And so they need to get it off their chest, then have the conversation. So it's fine. Just don't take it so personal. Until it's personal, right? Yeah. And I think that's really hard for a lot of people. And so it does beat them down when they serve like a 4-year term. By the end of the 4 years, like, I can't do this anymore. Yeah. And it's like, well, that's fair, but also you might have taken it too personal. Yeah. Take all out the frustration and zero in on the problem, and help them with the problem. Yeah. And that's how you get there and solve some of this stuff. So there's our emails of the week. And hopefully I prove not to be a moron, but I will let everyone out.
We've got that on the record.
Everyone out in the world decide. All right, well, we're coming to the end here. I appreciate you being here.
Absolutely.
One of the things I'm gonna do every week is I'm gonna post on our Facebook page and our Instagram page a question of the week.
Oh yeah.
Right? Something that comes up to us that we have to consider. Maybe it's a policy decision that we're trying to work through. Pretty simple yes or no. People will be able to... It's the Civic Circus on Facebook. It's the Civic Circus on Instagram. And you could just put your response in the comments in both of those. But so this is the issue in front of us. The city of Topeka does not have any limits on dogs and cats. Now, the state of Kansas has a limit. That I think it's 15. I should have looked up before we got here. But it's somewhere that once you hit that, you become a kennel. And you have to get licensing.
Do all the things,
Well, we have a lot of people who are right at that number. And we get those complaints that, hey, my neighbor has 12 dogs in a basic yard. It's a noise issue. It's a smell issue. They're running loose sometimes. I don't want to take people's dogs away. Right, man, I love dogs. I got an 18-year-old cat. Right? Like, I don't want... But a lot of cities have put in place some limit. Some of those are like a limit of 8 dogs and 8 cats, or some are a total. You can have a total of 12 dogs and cats, or whatever that number is. Yeah. So the question this week is, should the city of Topeka have a limit on the number of dogs and cats someone can own? Man. I know. It's more controversial than you think because people love their pets.
That's true. And I love animals. I don't own a dog. I would love to own a dog. I should not own a dog. I'm not home enough. Like, there's all kinds of reasons why. Yeah. But I get it though, because you have some of those sad situations. Like we had that hoarding situation here recently where it ends up being abusive, you know, at some point. So I think there's gotta be, I think, some reasonable limit in there really to protect the animals.
Yeah. And that And then like I said, you get into neighborhoods and it does become a problem. And so like I have nothing I'm putting forward at this point. It's like it's a conversation I think some folks are having, and so I like to put this stuff out to people and say, tell me what you think. That's the kind of feedback I need to help. You know, I always tell folks, you can't say you know what the people want and need if you don't actually ask the people. Right? It doesn't, like, you get all these people that say, oh, I know what people want. nobody's seen you in public in 2 months. Well, yeah, okay, yeah. And you got to talk to people you don't always agree with, too.
Exactly.
You got to hear. A lot of people like to live in that bubble of, they surround themselves with what they want to hear as opposed to, somebody got to have a tough conversation. But so that'll be the question. I encourage people to go check it out, answer it, and give me some feedback. So if this comes up or if they think I need to do something, we'll talk about it and push it forward. So anything else you want to add in there before we call it the show?
A reminder to folks that it is an election year coming up for local elections. So just as a reminder, we're gonna have primaries. We are up in a couple places. So
filing deadline's June 2nd.
Yeah.
5 council seats are up. District 1, 3, 5, 7, and 9. It's the odd years, and then our mayor has announced he's not running, and so that seat is up too. So and there's 5 people already in that.
Yeah.
This is not a political show, but yes, I'm one of them. But we won't talk about that anymore after that. But there's 5, so there's definitely a primary on August 5th, and then there'll be a general on November 4th. So and I think if you're not registered to vote, I think you have until July something. But go do it now. Let's just put it out there. Don't wait. If you haven't registered to vote and you're listening to this, go do it.
Great resource. Yeah.
Go get that done because those local elections matter. The feds take forever to get something done. The state takes less time, but still they only meet 3 times a year or 3 months a year. And then locals can do things quick. Hurt you quick, but they can also help you quicker. And so if you're not there's so many people, especially in Topeka, when you look at the voter rolls, who will vote in state and federal elections and never go vote in the local elections. When most of their frustrations come from not engaging in the local races and getting people that can benefit them locally. So go vote, go register, and look out for those elections. Well, thank you for being here. I very much appreciated it.
Glad to do it.
I can't wait to talk to everybody next week. Thank you, everybody.